Hello everybody, and welcome back to Do Nothing Gaming. I'm Muse. This fine fellow is Barry the Hatchet. Say hello, Barry.
Hello!
Good boy. And we are playing Dark Souls Remastered. So, why are we playing Dark Souls Remastered, I hear you not cry? Well, three reasons. Reason the first, it's practically a legal requirement of any YouTube channel to have some Dark Souls content on it somewhere these days. And Rob's not really that into it, and Alan, well, he's Alan, you know. Reason the second is, as much as I love Dark Souls games, the first two in particular, spent about 80 odd hours playing the original, I've never actually got around to completing this game yet, to my eternal shame. So I'm hoping that doing a bit on the channel might encourage me to actually finish the game off for once. And thirdly, I think a lot of Dark Souls stuff on the internet is either misinformed or it focuses on the wrong points, so I'll be throwing my own spicy takes out there as we go through the playthrough, so you can see what I think about the game. Firstly though, we've got what's very clearly a boss fight arena. Pools of blood all over the floor from where other people have tried and failed to deal with. The Asylum Demon. There he is. Look at that big boy. Suppose we better go deal with him. Or maybe we won't, actually. Maybe we'll just leave him alone. Yeah, you stay in there, bud. We'll take a stroll down here, because we haven't even got our trusty axe yet. Can't go around taking out the Asylum Demon without Ethel in tow. Now, what have we got? An archer. We'll just skip out the way and pick up our trusty shield. Oop. And let's see, we'll pop that on our shield hand, because that makes sense. And what have we got? We haven't got any other items we want to equip yet, so spider shield is up. Got some parries with it, got some blocks with it. Could come in handy against Archer Boy here. Bonk. Let's just beat you up. Look at that damage, 7 damage, 11 damage. No damage whatsoever. That's a bit useless. Ethel! There you are. Can I equip you whilst I'm in combat? Of course I can. Blammo. That is more like it. So, we're equipped. We're ready. Wham! Look at those big attacks. Yeah, there's a little slight extra bit of animation there, I think. It's a feature that Dark Souls 1 had that none of the later games do, which is some of the weapons, notably axes and clubs, when you swing with them, if you don't hit a target, there's just that extra smidgen of sort of stumbling animation at the end of it. So they're strong weapons in the first game, but they have that risk built into them. But I've never done an axe playthrough before, so that's the general goal of this one, to see some new weapons. So on we go. Right. It's also been like a couple of years since I last played this game at all, so whether or not I'll remember what I'm supposed to do is another matter entirely. But yeah, I remember that bit at least. I remember there's a door down here which leads back to the first bonfire that we found. And there's this dude. Oh, you're dead. But why? But why is because I can't be asked to listen to your dialogue. Basically. It's not really a lore playthrough, as I'd assume was apparent from that brutal assault on the first talky character we found. Because as much as I like the setting in Dark Souls, I don't think it necessarily needs to all be tied together in one big plot. A lot of players do that. They just spend hours like studying the scenery and trying to put together their own plot and everything, despite the fact that the creators of the game have said in the past that there is no great plot. They just wanted to put in enough to stimulate the imagination, as it were. So yeah, I like the setting, and I mean the level design's amazing as well, pretty much throughout. But the overall plot we're not terribly worried about. Looks nice. Messages down there from other players, so it's always a good sign that you'll be going to that area at some point. What's this message have to say? Oh, it's one of the developer messages. Plunging attacks. We will make use of those at some point. Now this guy's got a bit more about him than the others. Got a proper weapon and a shield and everything. Let's see if our parry game is on point. Nope, didn't parry that. That was too soon, I think. Actually, we probably don't want to die here, do we? Let's have a little drinky of our Estus and try again. That was far too early. That was just stupid, basically. And there we go, that was a parry. Not quite sure what that thump was all about. But yeah, you just do your parry sort of as the enemy's hand starts to move forward. And hopefully you deflect their attack. Then you can hit them with a big damage follow-up that does similar sort of damage to backstabs. It's going to be one of the things I want to do this playthrough, is actually practice parrying and get good at parrying. Plunging attacks? Shabams. Look at that damage. Oh, damn. Got greedy. Too many swings. Drink, drink, drink. Well, I got the drink off at least. Ah, that just... Is that an area of effect attack? I forget. Looks like it is. Get swing in, and then get swing in. Maybe two there? Yeah, two there. It's all about not getting too greedy, not getting too many swings in when you shouldn't, and knowing what you can block and what you have to roll. That should get some attack in. Maybe two. Don't seem to have a combo attack with this axe, it's just the same swing multiple times, so... Although yeah, you can combo light into heavy slightly. Good roll in, good roll in, boss is down. One down, many to go. Will we see every boss in this playthrough? Probably not. Floor looks a bit buggered as well from where old demon landed on it. And I can still hear a sound of what appears to be something big moving around. Maybe we'll come back later and find out what's happening there. Just rest up at the old bonfire, get back our Estus charges and full health. And now we can stroll out through t'other door using the key we picked up from the demon. So yeah, I mentioned earlier I've not completed the game before. To be honest, I've not actually got through Anor Londo before. As far as I've got is pretty much the door to the Ornstein and Smough boss fight. And then I didn't end up going back to that playthrough for some reason. So yeah, there's a whole chunk of this game that I've not explored before. The bits I have, I explored a couple of years ago, so I am rusty. And yeah, there's other bits I've only ever seen in Let's Plays and whatnot, so you've got a big hodgepodge of knowledge going on here. Some things I know, some things I don't. Let's meet a crow.
Only in the ancient legends it is stated that one day an undead shall be chosen. To to leave the undead asylum in pilgrimage to the land of the ancient lords. Lordran.
And we have arrived in the game proper. Tutorial out of the way. And we got a bonfire. And now we can level up with the souls that we've been gathering from the killing of our enemies. So we can get what, 2-3 levels maybe? Whole load of stats here. Let's see. Yep, we can tell what the stats do by pressing the back button. This is one of the things that Dark Souls doesn't tell you, but once you discover it's like, oh, now I understand what's happening. So that's good. But yeah, we've got a whole bunch of stats. How many do we care about? Let's see. 1, 2, 3. We only actually care about 3.5 of these stats. We're never going to raise 4 of them at all. So Vitality, that'll increase our HP meter. Generally pretty handy. You could look at it as a screw-up meter. The more health you got, the more screw-ups you can make in a fight before you die. Endurance, which is the king of all stats. Stamina, equipment load. Ignore the bleed resistance, that's irrelevant. But the more of this you get, the more stuff you can carry, while still being able to do moves like rolls. And the more stamina you've got in fights, so the more swings you can have at enemies. It's amazing. Strength and dexterity are both weapon-based skills, so you boost them up to do more damage with your weapons and to unlock the use of weapons that have specific requirements. And those are the 4 stats that we care about. So I'm thinking we'll need dex up to about 14 in the end, so we can use bows. We're only going to use those to pull enemies though. We're still an axeman, obviously. Strength, endurance is just generally amazing. Vitality, a bit more HP might be nice. I don't know what we need first. Endurance is generally good. Strength is also good. So what does that boost in terms of our stats? Our equip load and stamina go up. Our defense goes up a little bit. That's pretty good. And if we increase our strength, then our weapon damage will go up. And our defense also goes up slightly. So raising any of these seems to boost that. You can't go wrong with endurance. Although, yeah, so that gives us like 20 extra health points. It'll all add up. Right, now we've got this miserable bugger over here. We'll have a quick chat with him. So, blah, blah. Let me help you out. There's 2 bells of awakening. One in the Undead Church, one in Blighttown. Ring them both and something happens. So there we go. We've got a skeleton of a plot now. But let's have a quick explore of our hub area that we're in at the moment. So we've got a staircase up there, leading up to what looks like an aqueduct with some enemies on it. That's cool. Around here we've just got not a lot, but up in here I think we've got a pot with some items in it somewhere. Or am I thinking of another part? Let's just explore. It's been a while. It's been a long while. Ah, there we go. Fire bombs, that's what I was thinking of. That bell tolling in the background there means that someone has just rung the bell of awakening that's in the Undead Church. Now, Petrus of Thorland, aka Haircut. He's just a douche, really. Let's just skip through all that. Got a coin from him. And yes, please teach us some miracles. Now we've joined his covenant. It's kind of like an allegiance thing. We've pledged allegiance to the Way of the White. and that gives us certain effects throughout the game. We've learned Shrug. That's the main reason I wanted to speak to him, really. And he sells various miracles that we can't use because our faith stats are probably too low, and the faith weapons as well. So if you wanted to go as a faith build rather than a strength or a dex build, here's your mount.
Come again. The effectiveness of the
Smashy smashy. Always good fun. What do we have up here? We have got an elevator, a pair of elevators if you will. Or at least we will have later. At the moment we've just got an elevator shaft. So we can pop up here as well. Grab that soul. That's basically a consumable item that gives us extra XP. So, what do we want with these elevator shafts? Can't see any way of going up them. Whoops. We fell down into a hidden passage with some chests. Lovely. A cracked red-eye orb or 2 or 3 or 4. They let you invade other players and get in their business. A morning star and a talisman. Morning stars are nice, but they're not an axe. And some homeward bones that you can use to port back to your last bonfire. And over here, one final chest with Lloyd's Talisman, which is kind of an undead PvP combat item. It lets you stop opponents from using their Estus Flask in combat. But if we see any PvP in this series, it'll be incidental. It'll be other players just invading me and trying to ruin my day. Now, we've got some items here in this graveyard as well, so let's snatch those. Roll out of the way of you. This graveyard is connected to the Firelink Shrine, so I've not really gone into a new area or anything like that. There's another item up here, which is the Zweihander, which is a really powerful sword, usually used in 2 hands. And then we can make our way back over here, up these stairs, and we should be able to make our way back to the shrine without too much bother. Let's see. Oh, you're a big boy. Oh no, you're the big boy. There you go. Let's pop over here. And anything? Not really, but it lets us drop down here. There you go, that's what I was looking for. I've got vaguely remembered knowledge of certain items here and there throughout the game. And that will come in handy when it's reliable. Can't rest at the bonfire because there's too many enemies nearby, so I guess we best try and deal with him. God, he's got a lot of health. Happily, we can just keep smashing him. Mostly. So that's one benefit of the heavy weapons like the axe and the clubs. They can just ruin the day of skeletons. And then, still can't rest at the old bonfire, so I guess one of the others is shuffling around somewhere. Can't see him though. Now we've got a pool of water here, we've got a chest over there. If I remember rightly, if there's any like key items that you need to complete the game and you somehow fail to pick them up, I think they teleport into that chest. There's a skelly. Let's just take it slow, one hit at a time. And that should allow us to keep him down because our stamina won't drop too much. I can throw in a couple of double hits, I think. But then that does slow down my stamina regen a bit. And a backstab to finish him. And there's another one. Not the most riveting of gameplay at this point, but this is what happens when you accidentally aggro all the skeletons. Oh. You You'll stop what you were doing. Good boy. Well done, Barry. Let's just drink a crafty Estus, just because you never know when there's another skeleton lurking around the corner. And where else might we have not explored? Back up there to Petrus, so we might have explored everything we can around this sort of immediate vicinity. Did I just get some more souls? Did a skeleton just fall off a cliff or something like that? Could have happened. So I'm sure I saw an item up top somewhere there, but I don't think we can reach it just yet. So we need to decide what we're doing. We would be able to go back into that graveyard. We cleared out a bunch of the initial skeletons down there. And there could well be some extra routes available. There did appear to be a staircase going down to the left further down. I know there's a staircase going down there. That leads to the catacombs area. We'll definitely be there at some point. But for now, I think we will stick to one of the other routes. Let's just replenish everything. There's a flight of stairs here that you tend to miss when you first come to the Firelink. But if you eventually come down here, you'll notice that there is a woman. Can't speak to us, but she can reinforce our Estus flask. So if you bring her... What is it? Is it a soul of a firekeeper? I think it is. She's a firekeeper. They're dotted around the place and they keep the bonfires going. And if you bring her the soul of another firekeeper, then she can make your Estus flask better. I forget if it makes it heal more per use. Yeah, it makes it heal more per use. If you want to get more uses of your flask, then there's a different system in play that we'll get to at some point. There's an elevator down here that leads down to another area that we'll be visiting eventually. Leads down to a couple, in fact, because there's a lot of intertwined stuff in this game. There's a lot of places that connect to one another in curious ways, and you gradually unlock all the shortcuts as you go through, and it's just really satisfying to be able to get around the game as well as you can later on. But for now, I think we'll go to what is the route that new players are generally intended to find, which is to head up here and up onto that viaduct. So you haven't got a lot for me to worry about. Are you going to come on over? Sometimes it's best to be patient rather than rushing in and trying to tackle all the enemies at once. Because if I go for that guy up there might have something to say about it. But let's see. Yep, he's going to throw firebombs at me. Didn't get the backstab, but didn't need to really. So you're just going to stay up there and toss bombs, are you? How do we get you to stop doing that? Here comes another guy. So we'll back off and try and engage them one at a time. That's you out the way. And I will engage you before the other guy comes down those steps. So yeah, bit of patience, bit of experience. And you can take out big groups of enemies without too much hassle. And then watch them ragdoll off the cliff. Pick up that soul item. Might well be an item on that bridge somewhere. But I forget whether it's important or not. And we might have to go to that bridge anyway later on, so we'll leave it for now. More bell ringing. Sounds like the Undead Burg is busy today, which is nice to see. Hello, rat friend. We'll go with a big vertical overhead chop here, because yeah, it's useful to have a weapon with different types of attacks. If I try my big swing that I've been using, it can be tricky in this corridor because it's quite tight in here. But a big overhead, no problem whatsoever. Whereas those side sweeps are often best when it comes to groups of enemies. This door doesn't open from this side, so on we go. And we can head into the Undead Burg. And we can immediately get jumped because that's the kind of game Dark Souls is. Although having said that, people harp on about the difficulty of the game and everything. It doesn't have to be difficult. You can make it more difficult, certainly, by going on like no weapon runs or no levelling up runs or things like that. But no, if you're cautious and you take your time, then yeah, it's fine. Now, can't make that jump because I'm an idiot. It is possible to make that jump, but I'm still trying to get used to the controls. And it's a tricky one anyway. But yeah, something that always gets lost in the discussion about Souls as well, I think. People go on about the difficulty and the lore and all this gubbins, and they always forget to mention, oh, by the way, it's a really solid action game. It just feels good to play. Where'd you come from? Stop it.
Whoops.
That was weird. It seemed to be on target and then he just veered off to the side. I'm using the Dark Souls 2 control method, which is pushing in the left analog stick to jump. There we go. Because I prefer that to the Dark Souls 1 original method of hold the run button to run and then tap it again to jump. I'd rather roll if I'm running and pressing B. So now we can get into this area from this side, which we're not normally supposed to do. We're supposed to go through that fog gate normally. So maybe we'll just play it straight. At the very least we should probably open the fog door. Sometimes they've got bosses behind them. Oops, that was clumsy. Not even going to wait for you to attack again. Yeah, sometimes those fog gates have got horrible bosses behind them and it's a pain in the bum. Other times it might be a bonfire, you never know. It might be a bottomless pit. You can't really say until you actually open up the old fog gate and go through. In this case, it's just another room. It's just another section of the burg. But there is also an item down here. Once those barrels are removed. A large soul of a lost undead. And then we can drop down here, and yeah, there is a chap over there. And one there as well. Oops. Kind of got a bit lost there on the camera, but that does happen in these sort of 3D action games in a third-person perspective at times. It's kind of one of the features of the genre, really. There's not a lot you can do about it if you're in enclosed spaces like this. The soul there is nice. Oh. Wait, what was I thinking? No, I thought I was in a different part of the level where I could get to another item. But I'm not, so on we go. So, nothing going on in this room, and now we're out here. Loads of these buggers again. You can just piss off. You can die. You sneak up behind us at the last minute because you're a pain in the bum. There we go. Ambush defeated. I'm supposed to go, ooh, shiny, and then pick it up, find that it's rubbish, and then suddenly there's like 4 guys bashing me. But not this time. Now we climb the ladder, and we are back up where we were earlier. Lovely. So now we will actually proceed through the fog gate and move on. So we've got an item here, tucked in the corner. More smashes. Very important to hit the smashes in this game because it's satisfying and fun. Now there's a jump over there which is a pain in the bum. And hello. That was weird. Seemed to just disappear rather than fly off like he's supposed to. But yeah, that was a giant red drake. I'm sure he won't cause any problems for us later on. Nice straightforward fight there. So we could try and jump across there, but we could also find out where that ladder gets to. If we can find our way down there, and we can climb up this ladder and we can do that jump from a higher elevation, which will be a lot easier. So we should do that. Now, what have we got here? We've got an archer and a couple of lads. So, there we go. Don't like that little back step you did, that made me stumble. But now you're down. I like the speed the arrows fly. It's manageable. Now, what's in here? Is it a wooden shield? It is. Nowhere near as good as our spider shield. Different shields in the game can block different amounts of damage from enemies, so this shield I've got is 100% shield. So if I successfully block, I will completely block an enemy. Only 1300 souls, but it's nice to have the bonfire set up, so that's our new checkpoint if we die. Can't go up those stairs because they're buggered. We could sit down at the bonfire, but that will cause all the enemies to reappear, and we would only get one Estus flask and a little bit health back, so I don't think we'll bother at the moment. It's kind of a risk-reward system. How much further are you willing to go to potentially get extra rewards, but do it with less health? And yeah. And you've got the risk of losing your souls as well if you push on too far, because if you die, any souls that you've not spent will be left at your corpse. If you die again before you get back to them, then they're gone. Now, is backstabbing the way to go against you, or is it kicking? Yeah. Forward plus attack does a kick. It breaks enemies' shields. They can also kick you at times, so it's also tricky to pull off sometimes. But yeah, even though we didn't get the kick off, but we did manage to damage him a bit, which allowed us to break his guard so we could damage him some more. Now you see the power of smashes. Secrets and floating bits of wood. This appears to be an empty room. Or does it? Axe friend! What you got for me, axe friend? That was way too early. That one, I'm not even sure you can parry. Definitely need to practice this parry game. But first, a merchant. Hello, friend.
You seem to have your wit. Then you are trade.
Everyone loves the fact that nearly every NPC in Dark Souls laughs like a mentalist at the end of every sentence. So, this guy is selling various items, so that allows us to view and rate messages and write our own. Residence key. We don't actually need that because I've taken an item at the start of the game. You get a list of free items that you can pick as a gift, and I took the master key, which is going to unlock a bunch of doors for us around the game and open up some more options. It's pretty cool. We will take a bottomless box though, so we can manage our inventory a bit better when we get to bonfires and whatnot. We've got a hand axe. Probably not as good as our battle axe. 80 damage. So let's have a quick look. Let's have a quick look at our battle axe and see what it does. And it's doing 109 damage at the moment. There we go, 95 damage is its standard level, it seems. And then toggle display, there we go, 95 damage. Now you'll notice these bits at the bottom there, the param bonus, C and D. So that means that's its level of scaling. It goes up to like A, I think. Maybe it goes up to S. But either way, A is like top rank, D is like low rank, and they relate to different stats. So from the left you've got strength, dex, intelligence and faith. So this weapon is a C scaling in strength, which means as your strength goes up, the weapon's damage will be boosted by a reasonable amount. It's got a D scaling in dex, so if your dexterity goes up, it'll be boosted by a minor amount. So as well as needing stats to actually use the weapon, let's see. Yeah, so in this case the requirements, which are on the right of the scaling, is 12 and 8. So you need 12 strength and 8 dexterity to use this weapon in one hand. And it gets bonuses from strength and dex as they get raised. So we're mostly worrying about strength because we're an axeman. But we need a little bit of dex here and there. Now, we've got a whole group of buggers here. That one appears to be on the move for some reason. But now we've pulled this one over. So yeah, a bit of caution. A bit more of the caution than I actually displayed there is preferable. But by not rushing in, we've reduced this from being 1 on 4 to just being a couple of 1 on 2s. Which is fine, anyone can deal with a 1 on 2. Once they stop flailing about. I was trying to do a jump attack. Maybe I can't do a jump attack with this axe. Either way, it's a type of lunging attack that you can sometimes do with various weapons that can close the distance. It's pretty good. Now, this has taken us back above the bridge where we saw the Drake, which allows us to get some throwing knives, and now we can make that jump, which is much easier from up here. Lovely. So where does this take us? Up to a railing. Not a lot on the railing except for a crossbow and some bolts. So that might be something that we equip. 16 standard bolts, and then the crossbow we can equip there. Now, do we want it on us at all times though? Equip load is something that you need to look at sometimes. Higher numbers slow movement, exceeding max causes sluggishness. So we're currently using 18 out of 55, so just over 30% equip load. That crossbow is, let's see, adding 3 weight to us, weight 3. So if we remove it when we don't need it, then we're down to 15 out of 55. A little under 25% maybe, and what that basically affects is the amount of stamina you use when you do things, and it also affects your roll. So we've currently got a pretty speedy roll at the moment. We can evade enemies pretty well, but if you tank up on the heavy items, then you can end up with what's known as the fat roll. And yeah, that's a lot less mobile, a lot less useful for you.